Once you've installed and activated GFChart, you'll see a new item under your Forms menu called Charts/Calculations. In addition to the base plugin of GFChart, you'll also want to install the Charting versus Time add-on, the Image Charts add-on, and the Scheduled Notifications add-on. Note that you'll need to contact GFChart support for a version of Scheduled Notifications that's compatible with Gravity Forms 2.5. For access to all of these add-ons, you'll need the GFChart All license, and there's a link to that down below. So let's start by building the weekly registration bar graph. We'll start by clicking Add New. Let's give it a name like Weekly Conference Registration, and then choose your source form and click Create Chart. Once we're in here, we'll choose the versus time option. The interval I'll set to week. First day of the week is automatically Monday. We'll set the display type to bar, and then bar orientation to vertical. We'll leave the legend as none for now, but we can always come back and change that if we choose to. So click over here on this arrow to move on to the next tab here to select data. So the x-axis should be your form submission date. Since you're charting versus time, you only have options of date field. So if you have a date field in your form, you could choose that, or you can choose the form submission date, which is automatically recorded when the form is submitted. The x-axis, we have some options here, but we're going to leave it at count. Next, we'll click the arrow labeled Customizer. Give the chart a title like Conference Registrations by Week. I like to take a look at the preview of the chart before setting the height and width, so I'll leave those alone for now. You can check the responsive box if you want your chart to be responsive to different screen sizes. And then the horizontal axis label, I'm going to give it week beginning. And the vertical axis will be number of registrations. And then let's preview the chart, see what it looks like so far. Okay, so as we can see here, it's very wide, but not very tall. So short, in fact, that we can't even read the dates that are down here. So let's go back to the customizer and change the sizes. Okay, so I definitely want to increase the height. Let's see what that looks like. There we go, that's much better. All right, so that chart looks pretty good to me, so let's save that. And then we can create our next chart. So let's add new to create now the registration or ticket type chart. So I'll give this a name of registration type. Again, choose the registration form. And then choose a pie chart type. So there's three options here: default, donut, or 3D. You can choose any one and then go to the preview tab to see what it looks like, or you can scroll down in the description below and I've got a screenshot of what each of them looks like. So for now, I'll just go with the default. And then for the legend, I'm going to choose labeled. Let's go on to select our data. So my field that contains this data is called ticket type. Now we'll go on to customize this chart. So I'll give it a title of registration type. Again, we'll preview the chart before adjusting the height and width. So let's go on over to preview. Now this time, the chart is not wide enough to be able to read these labels well. So let's go back in here. Now my last chart I set to 500 by 800, and creating charts of the same size will help in our final lesson when we put all of the charts onto a PDF. It'll give it a cleaner look if they're all the same size. So I'm going to try that out here and see how that looks. And there we go. Now we can read all of the labels, and that looks good. So let's save that. Next, we'll create a similar chart to display our member types. So we'll click Add New, and then give this a title of Member Type. We'll choose our source form and create. Again, we'll choose a pie chart. You can choose a different style if you'd like. Again, I'll do a labeled legend. And then on my data this time, I'll select the field of membership. That's my radio button field where my entries indicate whether it's a member or non-member registration type. Now we can move on to the customizer, enter a chart title, do member versus non-member registrations. I'm going to preempt here and try the 500 by 800 and see how that looks. And then go on to preview. All right, looks good. Let's save that. And then finally, we'll create one more chart for sponsors and exhibitors. Call this add-ons. And this one will be a bar chart, but this time we're going to do it in a horizontal direction. So in the x-axis field, I'm going to choose add-ons that says in parentheses selected. Now in that field I have the options of sponsorship and exhibitor space, but if I select either of these, then my chart will only display that option instead of displaying both. So I will click there. For the y-axis, we could choose count or sum. I'm going to stick with count so that we know how many sponsors and exhibitors we have. We can choose here whether to sort by label or value. By default, GFChart sorts in alphabetical order, either ascending or descending, depending on which option you select there. If you wanted it to sort in a non-alphabetical order, you could enter values. So if we go back over here to our forms, we can take a look at what that looks like. So you have here, so we're in the add-on field, and you have the option to show values. By default, the value is the same as the label, but you could also, for example, you could just put a 1 here and a 2 here, and then if you sort by value in ascending order, this is the order that it would go in. Note that if you choose to sort by value, this is what will be displayed, so you do want to leave in information that's descriptive rather than just saying option 1, option 2. So back to setting up our chart. Once you've got those options selected as you'd like, let's go on over to the customizer. Again, I'll try 500 by 800, make sure that looks okay. And we'll preview. We'll give the chart a title, something like sponsor and exhibitor registrations. Now I'll set my horizontal axis label to quantity, and the vertical axis label I'll call add-on type, although the bar labels are pretty self-explanatory. So if we go over here to preview, let's see what that looks like. So there we go, that looks pretty good. Let's update that. In creating your charts, I want to note one thing. If we go back to the Select Data tab here, you do have the option to add in a date range. You can either choose specific dates or you can use relative dates. This option is available in any of the chart types other than charting versus time, as we used for our first chart. If you scroll down below, you'll see a link to the GF chart documentation that gives examples of the relative date options. So when you use this field, what that means is that the data that's displayed at the time that the chart is produced will fall within those parameters. So if you set a chart to send to you automatically once a week, and you have the -1 week relative date set up as your start date, then the chart will show you entries only from the past week. Again, take a look at the link down below to the GF chart documentation to see other options that are available. And now a note on displaying your charts. These charts can be placed on a page on your site if you'd like to display them. There's another course on Gravity.guide about pairing GF chart with Gravity View to display detailed data on your site. There's a link to that course down below. You also have the option to include charts in your Gravity Forms confirmations and notifications. So either the confirmation message that displays on the page after a form is submitted, or the notification emails that are sent out either to the admin or to the submitter. You can just copy the short code right here in the publish box on the right of the screen and paste it wherever you want the chart to show up. If you prefer to receive a report sent to you on a scheduled basis, then continue on to the next lesson and you'll learn how to set up a weekly automated report.